welcome back to my channel. I could not be more excited for today's video because my favorite palette launch of the year has happened and the newest Danessa Myricks Lightworks palette is out. This is the Lightwork Volume 7, the Freedom palette, and I'm so excited to test, try, and review this for you guys today. If you guys don't know, Danessa Myricks makes one of my favorite eyeshadow formulas. I love her palettes. I've been collecting these since the Lightwork Volume 3, and the Volume 3 was like the first palette that got me really into like fun special shades, shifty shades. I always tell this story, but I was going through a very contentious divorce at the time that I owned Volume 3, and there would be days that I would literally just be sitting out on my patio and I would swatch the Volume 3 and just like look at the shifts in the sun. This sounds like the most depressing story, but it was like the thing that brought me joy at the time. So I loved last year's palette, and I'm so excited that we have continued on with this genius packaging, which we'll get into a little bit more, which I believe is now being patented, which I think is brilliant for Danessa Myricks. And I'm just so excited to get into all the information regarding the newest Freedom palette, Freedom Lightwork palette from Danessa Myricks. She is giving us neutrals. I feel like people have been asking for this and she has delivered. So if you're interested, stay tuned. First, if you have yet to subscribe to my channel and you like project panning content, palette themed content, or just hanging out and chit-chatting about makeup, that is what we do over on this channel. So I hope you'll consider subscribing before moving on. And other than that, let's jump into the video. All right, you guys, Danessa Myricks has done it again. She has brought us a beauty in the Danessa Myricks Volume 7. I love that we have maintained the just innovative packaging, and I love the new cover. So it's kind of like this brown clear plastic packaging, like a brown plummy purple. Last year, here's last year's, it was all black. And I can kind of show you guys. So this packaging is completely magnetic. So we have the top here, which this part pops out and has a mirror on it. And then you can take this and it can be a lid to, I just painted my nails. You'll notice maybe halfway through the video that my nails aren't chipped anymore. But you can pop out each of these 6 pans here and you can magnet them together. And you can either do like, you could do one, or you could do all 3, or if you wanted to, you could, if you have last year's palette, you could do like a really thick stack. She also has included a travel bag, which she included last year, that you can pop your like sleeker travel version into. I'm gonna chip my nails again, I swear. So they just fit in this pouch, super handy for travel. And then with all of the pans of eyeshadow inside, these are also all magnetized, so you can pop out your shades of eyeshadow and create your own custom palette, create your own custom, however you want to put them together, you can put them together. If you're traveling and only want to bring 6 shades, you can bring the 6 shades that you specifically want to bring. And I just think it is absolutely genius. I also love that earlier this year, she released a like 6-pan pastel palette around June. So I hope she kind of sprinkles in little 6-pan launches here and there, just because I think it's so fun. I, again, love her eyeshadow formula. This palette does retail for $128 and has 10 different formulas amongst the 18 shadows that are included in this. My one gripe and complaint, and I don't know if this is fair or not fair, again, I don't produce eyeshadow, I'm not like a creator of a makeup brand, but there are matte shadows in this palette now, which I know some people have been asking for, and I'm glad that, you know, it's nice to have some matte sprinkled in, I will say that. However, we kept the $128 price tag, and I think when you think of last year's palette, which had more like special shades, if you will, maybe that's a little bit more bang for your buck, but retails for $128. I purchased mine on Sephora and I did do expedited shipping, so I got mine the next day. On the Danessa Myricks website, I believe if you're purchasing for the first time, you can get 20% off. So that might be a way to get a discount on this. And also the Sephora sale, the Sephora savings event is coming up. Although I do know this palette is limited edition. I believe it made it to the sale last year, but I do know that these do typically sell out relatively quickly. So if it's something you're thinking about, I would say try and scoop it up sooner than later. Okay, I'm popping in because I want to show you guys just how well this palette is packaged. It like blew me away last year, but I didn't film me unpackaging it. So inserting clip here to show you. So we are gonna open the, and it's hard to even, it's definitely gonna be something that's hard to open without like ripping the sides. I know I definitely won't be returning this palette, so I'm gonna be okay with ripping the sides. There we go. Okay. So then when you take the palette out, you'll see that the palette is wrapped in bubble wrap in its like second protective layer. So then you'll take it out of the bubble wrap and you get your little travel pouch, which I think is such a cute, just little touch. So then we have a second, is it a unicarton? Is that what they call it? You'll open this up, more protective layering. And then we get to the palette, but it's also all wrapped in plastic to prevent scratching. So we'll take off ASMR, the plastic, and then still you open it and there's still one more, well, I guess technically two more protective layers of film, and also the mirror has another, I mean pretty common, but another plastic piece. Oh, and this is my first time looking at this in person, and it does truly look honestly even more beautiful in person. But you can be rest assured your shadows should come fully intact with the way that the palette is packaged. Danessa Myricks describes this as a magnetic, stackable, all-over face palette, blending iconic pigments with everyday artistry and wearability. This is past, present, and future of Danessa Myricks beauty captured into one palette. Lightwork 7 celebrates 10 years of artistry, community, and innovation with our most iconic shades reimagined for today. This palette blends grounded beauty with surrealist color and texture, 10 versatile finishes, infinitely wearable shades, and the magic of transformation all in one magnetic, stackable, collectible palette. Made to mix, made to move, made for everyone. For the first time ever, this Lightwork palette features our newest color-accurate soft mattes to ground, define, and shape your looks. On the website, it does describe this as a finger-forward, brush-optional, all-over face palette, and it was designed for effortless application. I will say I do love to use a finger to blend, especially my more special shadows on the lid, and that is exactly how I use the shades in this palette. It says each section offers a unique mini palette with base tones and shades that range from subtle sparkle to bold multi-chrome shine. Simply swipe any shade over your eyelid for instant wearable magic. Before we get into comparisons of her previous palettes, I do just want to quickly swatch shade for shade each of the pans of eyeshadow within this so that you can get an idea of what they look like, how the shift looks for some of them, as well as the different textures throughout the palette. Starting with the one and only Hyper Shine Chrome Metallic, this is the shade Spellbound, and Spellbound is described as a magenta with an emerald green shift. Then we can move on to the three Hyper Shine Metallics, and we will start with the shade Enchanted. Funnily enough, this is the one shade I can't find a description for on the Danessa Myricks or Sephora site, but I do feel like there is a really beautiful flip to this shade. Next in the Hyper Shine Metallic formula, we have the shade Mother's Love, and Mother's Love is described as a royal blue metallic. This I have already tested on my eyes. It is such a beautiful, beautiful blue shade. And then the third shade we have in the Hyper Shine Metallic formula is the shade Star Power. And Star Power is described as a molten silver with a dusty blue shift. Moving on to the Velvet Metallics, there is one Velvet Metallic and it is in the shade Northern Lights. And Northern Lights is described as a smoky platinum. We have one Velvet Chrome in this palette, and that is the shade Mother Earth. Mother Earth is described as a forest green with an eggplant shift. Then we move on to our one Foil Flake Chrome, and this is the shade Open Heart. Open Heart is described as an electric purple with a smoky green shift. We also have one Foil Flake Metallic. This is in the shade Guiding Light, and Guiding Light is described as an antique pewter pink metallic. Moving on to the Elastin Multichromes. There are two Elastin Multichromes. The first is the shade Golden Child, and Golden Child is described as an opal white with gold to green shift. Then we also have Love Potion in this formula, and Love Potion is described as a white rose quartz with a golden shift. Moving on to the Chrome Topper. There is one Chrome Topper in this palette. It is the shade Dreamer, and Dreamer is described as an aqua blue with a periwinkle shift. Then we move on to the Elastin Sheer Metallics. There are two Elastin Sheer Metallics. The first one is in the shade Warmth, and Warmth is described as a metallic copper with a gold to pink shift. The second Elastin Sheer Metallic is the shade Wish, and Wish is described as an iced pink metallic. And then finally we move on to our 5 Soft Touch mattes. These are also called color accurate mattes. So we are going to start with the shade Sand. Sand is described as a neutral sandy beige matte. Then we have the shade Rooted, which is described as a baked terracotta brown matte. Moving on to the shade Magic Moon, which is described as a concrete gray matte. Then we have the shade Grounded, and Grounded is described as a midnight black matte. And finally, we have the shade Toasted, and Toasted is described as a toasted mauve matte. So those are all of the 18 shadows that you are getting in this palette, as well as the different formulas scattered throughout. I will say this is the second look that I have on my lids today. I have already used this 6-pan, and then this is this 6-pan. I'm very excited to move on to the greens because we love a green, but I am so impressed with the formula. I will say, I think like some of the shadows, they just feel so smooth to the touch. Like the Royal Blue, a little bit goes such a long way, and it's so intense on the lids. I truly do not know how she does it. But before we jump into the looks, I just want to quickly compare this to the other Danessa Myricks palettes I have in my collection. So I know that we've been begging for mattes from Danessa, and we get 5 in this. Prior to that, we do have her 2 Groundworks palettes that obviously have mattes in them. So we have the Groundwork Defining Neutrals. Mine looks very beat up. Very beat up. But in the Groundworks palettes, you are getting both cream and matte shadows. I will say, looking at the mattes in here versus the mattes in the Groundwork, I think maybe the closest of any would just be like the black. But even amongst like the browns or other matte shadows, I don't really see anything that looks to be the same. And then she also has the Groundwork Blooming Romance, which is more of purple and pink shades, or just like more rosy tone shades. And I think maybe the closest, like the thing you would think would be like the only possible close shade would be the matte right here, but it's not even, like it's definitely not a dupe. All right, now let's go Lightwork palette by Lightwork palette and see if there are any similar shades. So here is Lightwork Volume 3. I have the minier version of 3. There was a larger version. And when I'm looking at these, I think there's a few things that maybe could be similar. The first is, I just want to swatch the shade Martian right here. And I don't think that they're going to be the same, but swatched with this shade right here, which I'm not exactly sure what the name is. Here is Martian. Let me turn my lights down a little. Here is Martian, and then here is the newest shade out of the Groundworks. Martian, I think, is almost has like a bit of a peachy or a red base to it. So yeah, those two really are not the same at all. And then the only one I think that also could be similar is either the shade right here, or Soul right here, could possibly be somewhat similar to this shade right here. So I'm actually going to swatch this shade first out of the Freedom palette. That is so beautiful. It's so metallic. All right, then I'm gonna take this shade on my middle finger and this shade on my ring finger. So here is the Freedom 7, and then here is the shade G-A-I-A. I don't know how to say that. There's that shade. Maybe those are like somewhat similar. And then this one is the shade Soul, which is that right there. Which Soul I actually don't think, yeah, Soul is not. Soul has much less of a green base to it and is much more sparkly almost and lid toppery. And then I'm gonna swatch maybe down the side here that GIA. Nope. Oh my gosh, swatch down the side is literally this shade. Okay, my middle finger here. There we go. Okay, there is the shade out of the Groundwork 3. I actually think those two could be somewhat similar. Here, I'm gonna wipe my hand off quick because they're definitely not the same, but I want to swatch them just side by side so you can see the differences in the flip. Okay, here is the shade out of the Freedom 7, and I know I didn't do the best job wiping off. And then here's the shade out of out of Volume 3. As you can tell, they're like kind of similar, but this has more of like a orangey bronze-ness to it, whereas this, I feel like it's almost like the opposite, like the base is like flipped and the shift is flipped almost. But those two are somewhat similar. It's just like what you're getting straight on is almost the opposite, and then the base flips to the other. Not exact dupes, but those two, I can see similarities amongst them. Actually, I will also swatch this shade right here, which is Aurora, which is kind of like a purple with like a bronzy green flip to it. And I'm gonna swatch that, I think next to both of these. So I have this shade right here on my middle finger, and then this shade right here on my ring finger. So here is a swatch. I'm sorry, I don't have the exact names of the ones out of the Freedom 7. Okay, here is, these two are kind of similar, or not kind of, I feel like these are very close. This one maybe has a little bit more pink in it. This one is definitely more flaky, but really actually I feel like these two are quite similar. So that would be this shade right here out of the Freedom 7 is very similar to the shade Aurora out of Lightwork Volume 3. And those are really the similarities I see amongst these two. Strawberry Moon, actually, let me swatch Strawberry Moon. Okay, just swatching Strawberry Moon based on like the things that I've swatched a little bit earlier, I don't think Strawberry Moon is going to be a dupe to anything. So I'm gonna wipe these off and we will move on to the Volume 4. All right, here we have Danessa Myricks Volume 4, and then we have, I'm gonna try and hold this up a little bit better. We have the 7. Let me look at these really quick. Truthfully, amongst these two, I don't see much, if any, similarity. I guess the one thing I'd be curious about is swatching this shade down here in the corner of Volume 7. There is that swatch. I don't think that's going to be similar to the shade Divinity here, but that was like the closest thing that I thought. Yeah, those are not similar at all. Those are not similar at all. I don't think that there are any consistencies. I don't find anything to overlap, anything that overlaps from the Volume 4 to the Volume 7, personally. All right, then we have Volume 5 and Volume 7. And I know these shades pretty well. I don't think either of these two more orangey shadows are gonna be even similar at all to the one that we just swatched. I think the closest would be just swatching potentially these two blues against the light blue in here, but even those two I don't think are really going to be very similar at all. So on my ring finger I have Resilient from the Volume 5, and then on my middle finger I will do the shade Brave. So there is Resilient and Brave. And then on my pointer finger, I will take the volume 7 shade. I'm gonna swatch volume 7 here just because I think it might be closer to the bottom shade. There are those 3. So they're all really beautiful kind of iridescent shades. And I will say, I think this one at the top, the shade Brave from volume 5, has the most kind of like aqua to it, because I think it has a bit of like a pinky sheer base. This almost feels just like a straight lid topper, like kind of snowy blue. And then this one has more of like that UV kind of purple shift to it, but it definitely leans more blue. And this one maybe has a bit of a pinky base to it as well, but this one definitely reads more like almost aquamarine, whereas this one reads more like blue in the opposite shift. So I don't find that there's overlap there. And then I do just want to swatch the shade Healed right here, just to see if it's another one of those kind of like purple to green shifty shadows. I'm gonna swatch that right there. That one, yeah, that one is like a bit of like kind of, again, that purple. There definitely is like that greeny bronzy shift that's not really catching right now. I'm again gonna swatch it next to this shadow right here. There's that one. Okay, I could see an argument for those being somewhat similar. I'm also gonna swatch that other purple. There's that one. That one, oh, that was just so smooth. And almost has much more of a shift to it than this. So I actually think this shade right here is the one that swatched over to the side here. I actually think this kind of like flaky is probably closer or more similar to the shade out of volume 5, which is that right there. Not exacts, but definitely an argument for those being pretty similar. So maybe a little bit of overlap with some of the purple shades, but let me wash my hand off and let's move on to the volume 6 and see how that compares. All right, finally we have the 6 and the 7, and I honestly don't see a ton. 7. Thanks, Zoe. I honestly don't see a lot of overlap between the two, but I do feel like this is such a fun palette that you could mix and match with this for pops of like more bright colors. I'm trying to think if there's anything I mean, maybe these two. Let's swatch this shade right here from volume 7. And this one is just, again, more like lighter and more lid toppery, I would say. Whereas this is gonna be more like, the one out of the 6 is definitely more of like that true molten duochrome. Yeah, very smooth. Those are not really similar at all. I don't really think, I think she did a nice job of truly bringing us new shades. I'm like, let me swatch this shade right here from volume 7. Oh my gosh, that looks so freaking beautiful. And then I'm gonna swatch it against this shade from volume 6. Okay, those two are not the same, as this one has more of like peachiness to it, and this one definitely has more like green. Yeah, those are not, like, they don't have the same shift at all, but they're definitely more of that like opalescent lighter shade. Okay, now that we've looked at comparisons to everything, let's jump into the 3 looks that we are going to create using the new Danessa Myricks Lightwork Volume 7. Okay, you guys, we're here for look number 1. I'm so freaking excited about it. This is what the palette looks like. I haven't even swatched this yet. By the time you're seeing this, you'll have seen the swatches and everything. Last year when I did my review, so I did 3 separate looks and I kind of went by quad. I think I will probably do the same in this video. Maybe I'll mix and match just slightly, but maybe we'll just work our way from left to right and then we'll end with a blue look. Or should I start with a blue look? I might start with a blue look because I have a birthday party to take my daughter to later today, and maybe I'll wear something more neutral to the birthday party. I'm a little nervous for the blue one. Just a little nervous to do blue eyeshadow on camera for y'all, but I think we're gonna go for it. I think we're gonna start with the blue quad, and I will try and use as many shadows as possible in each quad. I have already primed my eyelids using, it's not sitting right in front of me, but the Ulta Matte Longwear Eyeshadow Primer. Okay, I'm gonna start by dipping into the matte gray, and I'll show you guys. There is definitely, just for those of you who care about kick up, I really don't care too much. I typically do my eyes first so I don't have to worry about fallout. Obviously, when I come on to do looks on camera, I usually do my like actual makeup first, but oh, I feel like because I'm doing a more cool tone look, I should have used a more cool tone blush, but that's okay. Okay, we are just gonna start by blending this matte gray into the crease. And I will admittedly say, while I love blue shadow, and I know blue goes really well with like a very dark smoky eye or a smoky eye, I personally don't reach for gray and black shadows that much, so I'm definitely a little bit intimidated by this grouping of 6, at least the mattes. I'm gonna zoom you guys in a little bit more. Right now I'm using a Sonia G crease medium. I think I might actually, I'm gonna go in with a Smith 247. I haven't picked up any additional product on the brush, but I'd like to kind of like blow that out a little bit, like soften it, and then continue to build. I don't know if that's actually working at all. Okay, I feel like I feel like that shadow's extremely pigmented, and it kind of, like, it's not budging, but I'm also like, okay, I want you to blend out a little bit more. Let me take a synthetic brush. I'm taking a Morphe M514 and taking, this is definitely a lot fluffier. Okay, picking up more of that shadow, and then I'm going to try and get a lighter, more blown out blend into the crease. I do anticipate this will be still more of a dramatic look, so I will build that gray shadow, but I just want to, I want to get my soft blown out gray up into the eye right here, the crease, the upper eyelid. What am I saying? Okay, we are getting somewhere. Picking up a little bit more so I can kind of get some on the outer edge here. I do feel like it's a nice gray. My experience with grays though, not a whole lot. That is blending quite nicely though now. Okay, I'm going in with a little bit of the black, and again, slight kick up with the black, but nothing crazy. I'm gonna make sure I really tap that off, and just taking the black on the outer corner. I don't want to go crazy with the black because I don't want like the most intense thing ever. So just like really tapping that into the outer corner like so, and then I'll blend it out with more of the gray. I'm gonna go back in with that Sonia G brush and the gray just to get a little bit more, words are really not going well for me these days, but a little bit more, I don't know, compact or just concentrated with my blend there. I will say, while I'm like really up close, I do feel like the gray has like a bit of, and maybe this is just common with a lot of grays, I feel like it definitely has a bit of like a blue, a little bit of a bluish hue to it, but like not also. I'm gonna just feel like the blend is looking just slightly patchy here in the crease, but I feel like that's just my eyelids, because I feel like that happens with just about every shadow. And I do like the way that those are blending together. I'm gonna go in with just a little bit more black right here, just to bring that in a little bit more. This is my problem. I'm always like, I'm not gonna deepen this up too much, and then we end up really deep every time. Really dramatic, really smoky, but we're doing 3 looks today, so I will be just wiping this off after and doing it again. I'm noticing just, I'm noticing just slight fallout here, but I will say, like, I am tapping my brush off, but not like, not focusing on it so much. Okay, those are blending beautifully together. It is definitely very dramatic, but They are blending beautifully together. Okay, I'm gonna stop right here, and I'm obviously gonna go in with the blue over a lot of the lid and some of this. It'll make me sad to not reach for these two shades. I haven't even swatched anything yet, but like, oh, that looks so beautiful and would also just be so pretty all over the lids. But obviously I really want to play with the blues. And then we have this shade right here. Ooh, that one doesn't feel, that one feels a little bit drier to the touch. Obviously a different formula than the one I just swatched. Ooh, this one's definitely a lot more sparkly. I feel like we could absolutely do something with that still in this look. So I'm gonna lay down my NYX glitter glue, and then I do like to use my fingers, and I feel like this is a good palette to use your fingers with. I'm gonna go in with the blue here, which I'm so excited about. Oh my gosh, that looks so pretty. Wow, just like a really beautiful, like cobalty sort of blue. Wow. And I feel like I just like gently pressed my finger in, and look how far, like a little bit is going a very long way. I'm gonna bring that almost all the way in. Wow, we're going for the drama today. I still have so much on my lid, or on my finger. I feel like one tap in could really just get both eyes. I'm gonna tap in for a little bit more though. All right, next I'm gonna take this shade right here. I believe this is kind of like a UV-ish. Ooh, that's like, I feel like it is like a blue purple, but it looks to be like quite ethereal. Okay, popping that in here. I will say, maybe not. Like, I feel like there's like I feel like there was like a very stark contrast still, where like that darker blue ended, but I'm just gonna keep tapping and kind of blending those two into one another. I love the way that bluey purple shade is layering on top of the darker blue and kind of lightening it up, but still, wow, that's really pretty. I'm gonna keep bringing that kind of across, maybe about halfway in. Okay, the shade that is like those two layered together is stunning. And that's the fun thing sometimes, you know, when you can layer shades together and just almost create like a new shade. Like, I truly feel like if we did those two just mixed together, like, oh, it would be so pretty. I'm obviously gonna clean this up a little bit. I'm gonna take this little Rephr pencil brush, and I'm gonna take a little bit more of that blue, and I'm gonna try and blend that up into the crease here a little bit more. I'm getting some blue sparkle fallout, but it's nothing crazy. Taking a little bit more of the matte gray to blend out the edge on both sides. I do like to bring my like shimmer shades up over the crease some, just because my lids are a bit hooded. I feel like I brought the blue up over here, but maybe not as much over here. Okay, this is obviously a very intense, very blue look, but I am liking it. I do want to take a little bit more of the lighter blue across the lid just to lighten it up. Maybe just a little bit more. Oh, I got like a chunk there. I'm trying to blend that chunk. Okay, then out of curiosity, I'm going to take a little bit of this shade right here, which I said had that like kind of drier feel to it. Ooh, I may have taken too thick that time. I'm going to pat that off on my hand just a little bit. I feel like that'll add a little bit of sparkle. Maybe I'm wrong. Is that adding anything? I'm going to try it with that Rephr pencil brush, because I kind of want that to be my inner corner, so I'm going to bring that down too. Okay, that's adding almost like a little bit of like a snowy white sparkle. I feel like we've got some cleaning up to do. I see it too, you guys. I see it too, don't worry. Okay, I'm taking a brush that I was going to say really doesn't have anything on it, but I'm like, maybe it has a little. I'm just going to run this along the edge just to try and clean the edges up a bit. And then a little bit on the outer corner here. Okay, I'm taking my Urban Decay 24/7 Glide On in Goddess, which is a dark blue. That does have a bit of a sparkle. Okay, for the lower lash, do I want to try and like stamp some of this blue? I feel like I want to stamp some of this blue on the lower lash. I'm gonna go for it. So I'm taking some, ooh, it's not picking up well at all though on this actually lip brush. Definitely getting blue fallout. And then I'm gonna try and take more of that lighter blue, sorry. Been out of frame, okay. Wipe off as much sparkle as we can, and then I feel like I do need to add maybe a little bit of matte gray to the lower lash too, just because the upper lash is so intense, or the upper, I mean the lids. Okay, I'm gonna add mascara and we'll see how we look. It's definitely very intense, but here is the final first look. Let me turn the lights down some. Oh gosh, that side's kind of hard. Just so, ow, just so you can see maybe more of the sparkle. It's very, very sparkly. But there we have the first look using the kind of cool toned blue 6-pan part of the Danessa Myricks, the new Danessa Myricks Freedom Volume 7. I maybe would have gone for different makeup, like something more cool toned. I do have the Archival lip set from Merit on my lips. I'm like, sometimes I struggle to get the lip liner to blend perfectly or to work perfectly. But of these 6, we used 5 of the shades, and I will say I really love, like I was really impressed with the way that the mattes blended. I will say, obviously I don't reach for black and grays that much. I love this shade. Yes, it's very intense, but for a blue lover, wow. And a little bit goes a very long way with that. This is beautiful, especially again for a blue lover. Just this really beautiful ethereal, it's kind of like just my perfect ethereal blue, and the way that these two layer on one another I think is absolutely beautiful. I feel like I don't really have much thoughts on this just because I use such a little amount on the inner corner, so I'm definitely excited to continue to play around with that shade because I do think that could be something really beautiful, especially for everyday too, just to add a little bit more sparkle, but it's definitely a more approachable shade. And I'm so excited to play around with this shade down here too because it looks kind of like one of those molten metallic just like very wet shades. But if you guys like blues, you'll have to let me know what you think of this look right here. But let's get on to look number 2. Okay, we are here for look number 2, and we are going to be playing around with the what? The 6-pan of mostly purple shades. I'm really excited about this one too. I think I might try and do something slightly lighter with this one, but all of these look so beautiful. Again, I haven't swatched any of these. I'm gonna swatch this one right here. Like, how pretty does that look with just like the matte shadow? Let me swatching this. Oh my gosh, okay, those are both so pretty. And then obviously I want to swatch this one. I mean, I obviously want to swatch all of them. Oh, this one's interesting. Okay. Oh, that's also so beautiful. Okay, should we swatch the other 2 purples? Here's this one. This one looks like just like your standard kind of multi-chrome, not standard, I shouldn't say that, but like a multi-chrome that's like the purple to green flip. I definitely have these in some of my other like indie palettes. So I'm not like super passionate about playing with that one today. I am curious what this, ooh, this is another one that I feel like a little is gonna go a very, very long way. That one is a little bit more of like a piecier texture, and that one, this one reminds me a lot of this, but almost like a little bit more sparkly, and the base obviously is slightly different. Okay, I think I might ignore these 2 today and play around with the matte and the other 3. I'm gonna go in with the matte shadow. Again, there's definitely some kick up there. And I'm just gonna blend this into the crease. Right now I'm using a Smith 247 to blend. I'm like, sometimes I love my Smith brushes for blending, and sometimes I'm like, ugh, I should have used a synthetic brush. I believe the Smith brushes are all natural hair brushes, I think. Seems to be blending nicely, but again, really kind of like depositing the pigment where you, or the shadow where you like put it down, and then not necessarily, and again, it could be the brush, not necessarily getting like a super diffused shadow look from it. I'm going to take a synthetic, slightly fluffier brush, the Morphe 514, I believe, just to really diffuse this into the crease. And we are diffusing, but I do feel like this one really is like, I'm struggling to diffuse it slightly. Like it really is wanting to stay where you like laid it down. I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but also I do still have a little bit of like blue glitter on my lower lash line, just so you guys are aware. Okay, I feel like I'm happy with the way that that matte laid down. I have a brush hair there. As you can tell, I did not bring it into the outer, like I didn't close my eyelid off here with that. We'll see if I regret that. It's a little bit different than I typically do, but I'm next gonna go in with this shadow right here, and I suppose I should lay down my NYX glitter glue as I always do, and I'll actually take the glitter glue across the entirety of my lid. Okay, then I'm gonna take this very metallic, almost like metal shade, and I'm gonna tap that onto the outer part of my lid. Okay, that is pretty, and also very, very intense. I have not filmed the introduction portion of the video, so I haven't like even read off the descriptions, or like I don't necessarily know the descriptions of each of the shadows yet. I do feel like this shade, while it is like kind of a more like, oh, silvery taupey golden, I feel like there is a bit of almost like purple and green reflect in it. So I feel like it does make sense that it's like with this grouping of shadows. Obviously you can group these shadows however you want because everything's magnetized, but I am noticing it seems like there's a bit of green, maybe purple and pink glitter in that as well. Okay, next I'm going to take this shadow right here, and I'm going to take this all over my lid. This shadow looks so pretty for even for like every day at the office. I feel like that would be a shadow you could easily get away with. Just for like, you know, it's natural or like more neutral, but like it definitely has still a bit of like fun to it. I feel like that looks so, so pretty. And again, I'm going to try and bring this up into the crease some too. I definitely feel like this is a shadow I could get a lot of everyday wear out of. I almost want to take a little bit more of this one that's in like the outer corner, bring that up a little bit, and maybe in just a bit. I feel like, oh, now I feel like I'm going like overboard with the shimmer out there. Should I zoom you guys in a little bit more? I'm going to take a clean flat shader brush and just try and like blend that slightly. And then going back in with just a little bit more of that second shade all over the lid. Taking a little bit more of this matte just to blend out the edge. I'm really, really loving the shade that's like on the inner part of the lid. That is just so beautiful. All right, then on my pinky, I'm gonna take some of this shade right here, the white kind of, that looks like such a beautiful shade too. And I'm going to tap that on the inner part of the lid and bring that up and in a little bit. That is definitely adding some more pink to the look. And obviously I wanted to get use out of as many shades as possible, but I feel like these two shades right here in this matte and not doing like that really intense metallic on the outer lid would be like such a beautiful everyday look. I kind of wish I didn't add that metallic to the outer lid. I just feel like, especially with like my eyelids, it's just making my eyelids specifically look a little bit heavier, but I am 34. Taking a little bit of that matte just to try and blend things out. I think I actually might take a little bit of liquid liner in a brown shade, not black. This is Cocoa from Lawless, and I am going to put this on the upper lash line. Definitely getting some sparkle fallout on the face, but that's okay. I don't mind. And then going in with a dark brown on the waterline. This is Ilia Dusk. And then just smudging the matte on the lower lash line. I think that is what we're gonna do for the lower lash with this look. This is one look I feel like if I was more comfortable doing a winged liner, I feel like a wing would look really pretty with this too. I'm just not a wing expert. Just gonna take a little bit more of this shade right here on the inner corner. Then taking my mascara. Okay, and then we have the final look using that second 6 pan. Here's with the lights turned down slightly. I do think that the outer part of my lid kind of looks just a little bit heavy, but this is my first time playing around with the palette, first time playing around with the shadows. I think that I'm like obsessed with that shade we put all over the lid though. Like I think that is so pretty, and honestly for every day, yes, it would be like a very sparkly look, but this is something that I would happily wear to the office. I am actually so pleased with the way that this look turned out. I'm sad that I'm about to go wipe this off. I will probably recreate this look for a video or something very similar because I really do like the way this look turned out. I think I'm actually gonna add a little bit of that Archival lip liner. Might regret, especially because I have the Summer Fridays lip treatment on, so I don't know how well this is gonna actually go onto the lips. Yeah, this is not my favorite lip liner of all time, I don't believe. But I'm gonna take a little bit of Lawless Forget the filler in Lavender Sorbet. I feel like I'm getting close to emptying out Lavender Sorbet, which will be exciting to have another lip empty for the end of the year. Perfect, okay. This is, I should not have added that lip liner. Okay, this is my final look number 2. Let's get on to look number 3. Okay, we are on to the final 6 pan, and I'm super excited about this one. I love greens. I feel like this very much fits the fall vibe right now. So I'm gonna start by taking the lighter of the 2 matte shadows, and I'm just going to blend this into the crease kind of as we have been with the mattes. I just filmed the introduction for this video, so talking a little bit more about this palette. And I will say, so these mattes are considered like true to pan mattes. And I will say that as I was kind of talking in my last 2 looks about how it feels like the shadow you lay down is kind of like in place there, I think it's more that like, yes it is, but it also is this like truly true to the pan match for shade. I don't know, I just wanted to point that out. I also feel like I was editing back the clips from the first 2 looks and I'm like, I don't think it's really the formula. I think it's just my lazy blending. I was feeling like maybe some of the matte shadows looked a little bit patchy in the beginning, but then in the end it all kind of came together. So it could be my blending skills or just like lack thereof, and also not taking the time to have a perfect blend. I do feel like this is blending very, very beautifully. It could also be just maybe this eyeshadow primer isn't the best for these shadows. And like I said, once I like got to the final look, I feel like everything was blended together, but there were moments where like I finished with the matte shadows and I was like moving on to the other colors. And as I was editing back, I was like, girl, these mattes are not blended very well. I really do like this matte shadow. I feel like this is the perfect like one and done matte in your crease and you're good to go, which I also just love having in my collection. I mean, I have it quite a few times over. I also feel like my shadow's sticking really weird right here, but again, that could be like a part of the eyeshadow primer situation. All right, then I'm gonna take the darker brown matte and I am going to mostly just pack that color on and then go back in and blend out. The one thing I will say is the lighter of the 2 mattes, I feel like can read a little bit more cool tone, whereas this is like a rich, warm chocolate brown. I'm getting quite a bit of fallout, I feel like, with this one. Okay, I'm gonna go in with this slightly smaller fluffy brush and just back into that lighter matte shade. I'm just gonna use that to blend these 2 together. Okay, I will say blending over top of that chocolate brown with the lighter matte, I feel like that chocolate brown is almost blending away kind of into nothing. So that's kind of interesting. Watch this blend away kind of into nothing. Okay, that's kind of interesting. And I do feel like, and sometimes I do get this like on my outer lid here. I feel like it's like a little bit patchy, possibly like right there and right there. That truly could be like my eyelids and my eyeshadow primer, because I feel like I complain about that with just about every matte eyeshadow. But I do feel like that didn't necessarily pack onto it. Like I feel like I kind of lost the majority of that brown. Okay, lots of fallout with the brown. I'm gonna go back in with a different brush. I'm using the Singe EO5. I'm gonna pack on a little bit more of that brown. Tons of fallout. I'm getting annoyed. Not necessarily at the palette, because as I mentioned in my first look, I would typically just do my eyeshadow first. It's just, oh, that's not blending away well. That's user error. Maybe I'll just, I think I might just use this brush then to blend that, to try and keep some of the pigment there. I will say I don't necessarily love these two mattes together, and not that you have to use them together, but I feel like I don't like the warm and the cool. Also, my eye is watering out here. That's great. I'm sure my eye is very annoyed that we are doing 3 looks back to back to back. Okay, at least we've built that up a little bit more. I'm gonna go in with that lighter shade just to like blend the edge out a little bit here. I don't really love those two together. I'm not gonna lie, not my favorite. I know it'll kind of get covered up by the special shadows we use, but I don't necessarily know I would use these two mattes together again. Just not my personal favorite. Nevertheless, I'm going to take my NYX glitter glue all over the lid. Okay, I really want to dig into this green down here. I just feel like that looks like such a fun, kind of different shade. I'm going to take that on my pinky. And I am going to tap this on the outer corner of my eye. Ooh, I like that. I know I literally just filmed the intro with like the descriptions of the shades, but I feel like I forgot how this one's described. But I like that this is like not necessarily one of the like warmer greens that like has, oh, almost like the red base. I feel like this has like a bit of silveriness to it, and I think that is really pretty. I feel like that's, maybe it's not, but to me, I'm not like, I can't think of anything that is, it's really reminding me of in my collection. I feel like it's a unique shadow to my collection. Okay, I'm digging this shade a lot. This eye is not digging what's happening though, because it is so watery. I feel like I'm gonna save these two shades for another look, and I'm gonna go all over my lid with this shade right here, because I feel like that shade is gonna be just stunning with this green. Okay, this is actually showing up on the lid way more yellow than I was expecting, but that's okay. I am gonna bring that over quite a ways, and I do think I'm gonna bring some more of that darker green in here in a minute. This would be a very good Green Bay Packer look. I also feel like this would have been really pretty with it. I kind of want to see what that looks like. I might regret this. I might regret adding this. Oh, maybe not. Just because I didn't necessarily want like a yellow, like such yellow. Okay, that works. Okay, I'm gonna take a little bit more of this green shade right here. And I'm gonna tap this farther in. I really like that. Okay, I'm gonna add some liquid liner to my upper lash line again, and I'm gonna go with Cocoa again just so it's not quite as dramatic. Okay, liquid liner is on. I am really liking the way that this look is coming together. I feel like it matches my nails that I just did. I'm gonna take a little bit of the Ilia eyeliner in the shade Dusk. on the lower lash, and then I think I'm just gonna use the lighter matte shadow and just smudge that across the lower lash line. My eyes are so irritated with me right now, both sides. Okay, you guys, mascara is on, and I'm really glad we added that silver look on top because I love the way that the silver and that green kind of come together. And I feel like this is a little bit of a different take on green than I normally do because I feel like I usually do a warmer green look, but this is the third and final look. I love this one too. Okay, I just added, whoops, a little bit of gloss, and this is the final look. I think, oh, I really like this one too. I really like this one too. I think if I were to have to rank them, look 2 and 3 would probably be my more favorite, but I have been liking something not quite as bold on the lids, and the blue was quite bold. You know I love blue though, and I still loved the way that those shadows performed. I think now that I have done 3 looks, let's give my final first impressions thoughts on this palette. I love this, but I knew I was gonna love this. Danessa Myricks just makes such incredible formulas. It's a great way to try kind of like special indie shadows at less of a risk, if you will, because you're buying it at Sephora. So truly, if you absolutely hated it or something happened to your palette, you could return it. I don't think you'd be disappointed. I know it is very, very expensive, but I do think it is an investment and something that you can use as a companion palette with other things too. I just feel like there's so many different special textures and tones throughout her palette that just add something so special to a look. And I love that she finally delivered something a little bit more neutral, so that if you're someone who strays away from color or color's just not really your thing, yes, there's obviously still pops of color in here, but I love that it's grounded with the more neutral matte shades. Would I have been totally fine with 18 special shades as well? Yes, I would have, but I do think it's smart of her to add a couple of mattes just to make it so you truly can just use this palette to create one look rather than having to dig into or to reach into other palettes. What might be genius for her would be if she came out with a 6-pan all matte palette or something like that. So you have like another tool to mix and match. That might be, what's happening with my hair? That might be something, Danessa, that might be something to think about doing. Overall, I'm so freaking happy about this palette. I know I wouldn't regret my purchase. It wasn't like a risk for me to purchase this because I have so many of her others. I basically collect the Lightworks, and I know I love her palette formula, but I'm yet again impressed, and I'm very excited about this one because this is something that I feel like, depending on the shades that I'm reaching for, I can get more use out of this day to day, whereas a lot of her other palettes are more like fun weekend palettes, if you will, because they do definitely pack more of a punch or they're more colorful. This is something, especially like some of these, like this shade I'm literally obsessed with. I feel like I could get a ton of use out of this day to day. So overall, I'm so pleased with this. I would say between this and the number 6, those would probably be my top 2 that she's released. I mean, she's knocked it out of the park again, and I would love to know what you thought of the 3 looks. I would love to know if you've already picked this up, if you plan to pick this up, if you're skipping it. Let me know in the comments below. But that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to watch and for supporting me and my channel, as you guys always do. I love you guys so much, and I will catch you in my next video. Bye.